What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited to check out Viral from Arcane Wonders. This is for 2 to 5 players, take about 60 to 90 minutes to play, and it's for ages, I'd say, 13, 14 plus. And in Viral, you're going to be taking control of your own unique color of virus, and you're going to be trying to infect the body as best you can in this area control game. It's from Arcane Wonders, who has a flawless track record for me. It's part of the Dice Tower Essentials line, which also has a flawless track record for me. So needless to say, I was very excited about this interestingly themed area control game, but is it good? Let's open it up, and I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Viral. So first and foremost, we have our handy dandy rule booklet. It is 15 pages, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, examples, and it is very well done. It should have you up and running very smoothly. Excellent rule booklet. It's also a pretty simple game, so I can teach you how to play right now for the most part. So in Viral, you're going to be taking your own specific color of viruses, and you're going to be trying to infect various different areas and zones of the body in order to score victory points. If you can score the most victory points, once all the cards have ran out, you will be the winner of the game. You're going to score these victory points by infecting all these different areas of the body, traveling around, and most importantly, attacking other people, trying to undermine them, trying to outplan, outscheme, and outthink them. So what am I talking about? Let's take a look at the components, then we'll get into the gameplay. So first, we're going to take a look at the board. There's a lot going on the board, but the main thing you need to know are there's going to be different zones. So a zone here, 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 and here. Now these are different tiles, which will show you how many victory points you'll score for winning that zone, and also how much scientific research is going to go into your virus if you score that zone. We'll talk more about the scientific research a little bit later, but it really works thematically. So each zone is going to be worth different points, depending on from game to game to game, because obviously you can move these around, and I think there's 2 or 3 more still in the box that I'm not using. Next, we have the score tracker over here on the right side, and this is obviously we're going to keep track of your points, but you'll also notice there's some symbols as you go down the score tracker. That's because as you progressively go down the score track, you are going to gain cards that only you will be able to have. So you'll have a special card that will do something completely special that no one else will have for the rest of the game. You're actually going to end up getting 4 of those cards during the game. Next, you have this little symbol right here, which just means you're going to flip this around and it will do something different. Some will give you more points, some will mess with how much research is put into you, but it will change up the game a little bit so it does not get stale midway point through the game. Over here, we're going to have the crisis tokens. We'll have 4 crisis tokens. And how this works is if you have too many viruses in a location, then that is going to cause a, what is this? It's a bad stuff. It's a crisis. That's it. A crisis in that specific area. And then most likely you're all going to get wiped out unless you shield yourself. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. All you need to know is that it has a handy dandy little guide here on the board, which is a great idea, to tell you when different areas are going to go into crisis. So, over here on the left, you got a whole bunch of gobbledygook, which doesn't make much sense to you right now, but this actually goes through all 6 different phases of the game. And it's incredibly helpful, and you'll quickly figure that out once we get to that. So that's what you're going to get on the board. You're also going to get a handy-dandy little player board in front of you, which will go over all the different symbols you're going to see on these cards over here and the cards that you're going to start the game with. Very, very helpful once again. Also, it has 1, a 2, and a little hourglass up here. We'll talk more about that in a second. So the last thing you're going to get cards, and more cards. And you're going to get 2 different kinds of cards when you first start the game. First and foremost, you're going to get these green cards right here. And you should have 6 of these green cards. Not quite sure where the rest of mine went. You're going to get 6 of these green cards, and they're going to have different locations that you will be able to infect. So obviously, if you play this card down, then you'll be able to infect one of the lungs or the small intestine, stomach / large intestine. But you get the idea. This is going to help you decide where you are going to infect in the body. Now, these cards, and you're going to start off with some of these cards as well at the beginning of the game, and they'll have this little symbol down here on the bottom right, are going to tell you what you can do when you infect that area. And there's lots of different symbols on these cards. I think there's only 7. So the one you're going to see the most is going to be this infect. That just means that you're going to put something in that area. Next, you have the crisis. This is going to allow you to play crisis markers. You have attacks, which means you'll be able to attack other people. You'll have magnets, which will either pull people towards you or push people away from you. Absorb, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Shield, which allows you to flip over your tokens to make them a little bit safer. And then move, which will allow you to move. And this game has a really cool movement system, as you'll be able to move throughout the body following the arrows. And you have to make sure you follow the arrows. Now, a lot of that probably didn't make much sense. Let's go ahead and just run you through all 6 phases of the game, and you'll quickly understand what's going on. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to figure out who's the first player, and they'll have this little first player token right here. And then you are going to decide which zone you want to infect, so you place that down, and then which of these cards you would want to place. Well, at the beginning of the game, actually, you're going to go ahead and place two different tokens in 2 different areas. So let's just go ahead and do that. We'll say this guy went here and here, and yellow went there and there. So, now what I got to do is I have to choose one of these cards. So let's just say I really want to get poppin', so I want to get 2 things in an area. Now you'll notice that some of these symbols are blue, some of these symbols are not blue. If it's blue, that means you have to do it in this specific zone that you play. So let's put this down, and then everyone's going to reveal at the same time, and in player order, we'll set it out. So for me personally, I am going to put 2 of my viruses into the lungs. So you know what? I'll go boom, boom, and I now have control of the lungs potentially, as long as no one sucks me out or attacks me or does various different things. And I'll talk more about that in a second. So next, once everyone's done that, you're going to do that once again. So you'll do it over here on the second phase. So let's just say this time I'm going to go ahead and go to this zone for the pancreas, and let's do this one. So we flip that over, and so we're going to be able to infect the liver area 1 time. So we'll do the pancreas, because that'll give us control of this one. And then we also have 2 shields right here. Now the shields are going to allow us to flip over 2 of our viruses, so now they have shields. So I might do that right there. So that's pretty much the entire phase 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all 4 of these cards, and I'm going to put them right here, which will remind me that I cannot use any of those 4 cards during the next turn. So those will unlock a turn from now, but not next turn. And that's the entire phase 1. Now we go down to phase 2, and we see who has control of the different zones. So in order to have control of a zone, you have to have one of your viruses in each area of the zone, and you have to have the most viruses in a zone. If there's a tiebreaker, then you look down here on the tiebreaker chart, which has a smiley face on the top and a frowny face on the bottom, which I think is actually kind of ingenious. So for this instance, yellow would score 4 points because they have this guy down here, which means they would go 4 points up on the track, and they would also get to draw one of these cards over here. These cards are going to be more fancy versions of the cards that everybody starts with. Oh, that's a bad example. Like these ones. Oh, that's a bad example too. Like these ones right here. Some of them will even give you victory points every time you play them. So very cool cards over there. But you're going to modify your score, and then you're going to continue to go from zone to zone to zone, scoring everybody's points. So I would get points for this one. No one would get points for this one because nobody's even here. I would get points for here, and no one would get points for here or here because no one is in both areas, or no one is in the brain, surprisingly. Now, the other symbol on here I talked about was the research. And this is a very important thematic element of the game. So if you go up on the research track, it's bad because if you ever get to the very top of the research track, so let's just say yellow had this, they would go up 3 on the research track. 1, 2, 3. And if they ever get to this phase right here, then the doctors are going to completely wipe them out when we get to phase 5 over here, because you're really messing up the body. They find your antibodies, your antidote, and they're going to try and kill all of you. And the only way you stay alive is if you have a shield. So once you've done that, you'll move on to phase number 3, which is going to be a different event that will happen each and every round. And these will change from game to game to game. I think they give you like double the amount of cards you need. So each game is going to be a little bit different in which events you're going to get and in the order in which they get them. But you'll know what event is going to happen, and you'll be able to plan accordingly based on that event. So for instance, this one, the player with the most viruses in lung 1 and the player with the most in lung 2 each score 1 victory point. So that would be a great move for me because now I have control of both lung 1 and lung 2, so I get the 2 points, but also get 2 extra points because of that card. So those cards are very important. So once you've done that, you move on to phase 4. And this is where you are going to be taking a look at the crises that were dealt out. So as I mentioned, if you ever get too many things in a crisis, then too many viruses in a particular area, then you will have a crisis. So let's just say that this happened right here in a 3-player game. What would have happened is as soon as someone placed their last piece there, boom, this crisis token would go on there now. And this is both good and bad. It's good because you're going to score points no matter what. So for instance, since they have control, they would score 2 points, and since I'm in second place, I would score 1 point. And if anyone else was here, so if Yell was here, they'd also score 1 point. But that also means that everything here is going to get wiped out because the body is panicking. It's like, oh my gosh, we got a crisis in the stomach, and they just kill everything unless, of course, you have a shield, which is why shields are so important. So next we move down to phase 5, which is where you wipe everything out if you are too high on the zone. And if you ate up everybody in your zone, which is a card, I'm not even really going to go into it, but it's a really neat card, then now they spread back out. Then you get to phase 6, which is where that's going to happen, and then you readjust the turn order here. And whoever has the most points is going to go to the bottom of the score tracker down here. And whoever has the least points is going to go to the top of the score tracker right here, because if you're at the top, you have all the tiebreakers during the game. But interestingly enough, if you're at the bottom at the end of the game, you get the tiebreaker for overall tie for points at the end of the game. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to rinse, wash, repeat. You're going to do that. You're going to get a new card out here. And you're going to continue to do that over and over and over again. Eventually, you're going to acquire 4 of these special cards over here. And eventually, you're going to flip over all these tiles over here. But once you get done with the last round of the game, when you've used the last card, you'll tie up the points. Whoever has the most points will be the winner of Viral. And that, in a nutshell, is how the game is played. Alright then, Viral from Arcane Wonders. One of my final thoughts. Let's go over the pros. Let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, game's not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. 2 to 5 players is a very nice player count, but I think this is fantastic at 3, 4, and 5 players. 2 players, it's just purely okay. And honestly, if you're looking at this specifically as a 2-player experience, I don't think I can really recommend it that much. It just loses so much at 2 players with that dummy player just because there's not enough meanness spread around. And while the dummy player will still spawn viruses all around the board on each turn, it just doesn't do enough mean stuff. I wish the dummy would do some random mean stuff as well. I wish they could have balanced that into it somehow. I feel like the dummy could have been better. But that being said, it's still fantastic 3, 4, and 5. But 2 players, not so much. It's just okay. Continuing onward. Ow, 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 ow. This is a mean game. And you don't see the meanness coming when you look at the box and you read the rules. You're like, oh, this seems like a nice, fun, light little game. Maybe it's for families. It's like, no, this is not for families. I'm going to kill your viruses. I'm going to shove your viruses out of different organs. I'm going to eat your viruses so you don't get victory points. And then the game's going to do mean stuff to you. And then scientists are going to completely wipe out your viruses because you're running all amok inside of the body. And it's mean from start to finish. Now, it's not so mean that you can completely ruin someone's game with a turn, which I do like. And the meanness balances out because everybody's being mean pretty much on every single turn. Yes, there's some cards that don't do mean things. Maybe they just move you or shield you. But for the most part, you are going to be being mean a lot in this game. So if you play with people who cannot handle mean games, or you yourself cannot handle mean games, this one might not be for you. Any other cons that I have with the game? Oh, I think some people will not like the fact that there's not as many choices as you might like in this game. In fact, in the game, you're only going to make, I think, maybe 14 choices the entire game, 18 choices. I remember one of the guys that works at Arcane Wonders telling me that you make very few choices in the game. Now, the choices you make in the game are really interesting choices, and there's a lot of planning that goes into this game. Which cards you play will be big, where you decide to go, when you decide to go. At the event cards shift things. So I don't want you to I want you to take that with a grain of salt. This is by no means a light game, but it does. I think some people are going to want just a little extra layer on this game, which hopefully they can put in an expansion in the future. But yeah, that's what I got on the con side. And for the most part, all those cons are nitpicks. Because moving on to the pros, Viral is fan-frickin-tastic if you're playing at 3, 4, and 5 players, and I really enjoy this game an awful lot. So what do I like about this game? First and foremost, let's talk about something I don't normally talk about, which is the artwork. And the artwork is outstanding in this game. I really like this artwork. And it's the kind of artwork where even if you're not the biggest fan of this style of artwork, you'll still say, that is still nice artwork. It's just not for me, but it's nice artwork. And I can tell this is fantastic artwork from top to bottom. Each card looks great, and I like that a lot. Next, the theme works. And what works, what I even like even better is the fact that theme helps you teach the game when you're talking about, for instance, how the scientific research goes and how you can push people out and all how the body's, the veins, you have to follow the way the veins would naturally go. And a lot of the theme comes across in this game, which is really cool because it's also a very odd theme, which I think will turn on some people. Still turn off some people, but for me personally, it turned me on. I liked it a lot. Continuing onward, I like the fact that your deck is going to start out the exact same as everyone else. You're going to start off with these said cards, but by the end of the game, you're going to have 4 special cards that you and only you have. And I love when games do that. I love when games are like, here, this is this super awesome card that lets you just infect 3 times. Nobody else has this card, only you. And I like that. I also like the fact that those cards, as you acquire those cards, they can kind of shape how you play. Do you want to get the ones with high victory points and just continue to play those and maybe focus a little bit less on the body, where someone else might be focusing a little bit more on the body because they get the cards that have the zeros, but those ones with zeros do way more cool stuff. They're going to have more options for you to take on your turn. Like this one right here, shield 3 times, and in fact, that's huge. Shielding 3 times, you're just not going to die. Which I like an awful lot. The rule booklet is fantastic. The components all are top notch. There is not one hole I can poke in these components at all. The cardboard's fine. The cards are nice and thick and sturdy. The board looks very appealing. The board is very user-friendly. While it does look cluttered when you first open the board, you're like, what is all this stuff? As you read through the rules, the board makes 100% sense, and it is a fantastically done board. Not just artwork, but just the graphic design and the layout. Just the graphic design, period, in this game is great. Overall, Viral is a slam dunk home run if you're looking for a 3 to 5 player area control game. If you like area control, wholeheartedly recommend this game if you're going to play with 3, 4, or 5 players. If you like games that are easy to learn and easy to teach but still offer really interesting choices, this one will definitely be for you as well. I love looking at that hand of cards and being like, I really want to kind of go there, but at the same time I'm worried he's going to go here, and then I have to worry about this event over here. That's another thing. I love how each round is different with those events. Each event, you need to be looking at that event because, maybe it'll knock you 1 down on the scientific research chart. And if that's the case, then you can just go buck wild getting as much scientific research as you want, knowing that you're not going to get wiped out, which I just like an awful lot. If you couldn't tell, Viral is fantastic. It's outstanding. Hats off to Tom for finding this one and getting this one on the Dice Tower Essentials line because it is great. Arcane Wonders, once again, they got a perfect track record with me. I love Mage Wars. I love Spoils of Wars. I love Viral. I love Onitama. Just great games. And Viral is no different. So that is Viral from Arcane Wonders, one that I wholeheartedly recommend if you like area control and if you like mean games. This one is definitely going to be up your alley. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. In the comments below, let me know, do you have a good immune system? Me personally, I have an outstanding immune system. Normally, once I feel sick, I'll just take a whole bunch of Dayquil, eat a whole bunch of vitamin C, get a good night's sleep, and boom, I'm better no matter what. But as I get older, I notice that it's kind of like, it's going a little bit downhill. But for the most part, I have a very, very good immune system. Do you have a good immune system? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.